In this video, I'm going to teach you how to pay less taxes in Canada. I'm actually married to a Canadian, so I call myself a Canarican. So I'm highly versed in American, but also very versed in Canadian tax. So get a pen and paper, you're going to want these strategies. So I'm going to share three different things. First of all, the simplest strategy that most people don't do because they don't know to do it, which is just ridiculous. I'm going to share number two, why your family is so critical in your Canadian tax return, your entire family, even like potentially your parents, grandparents, siblings, all of it. And then number three, what is the number one thing that queues you up to get an audit, right, from the Canadian Revenue Service. So get a pen and paper, let's get started. So the simplest strategy, like the number one thing that most people don't do that's so obvious, is keep complete records. And I know you're listening saying, really, I'm going to click off this video, don't you dare, because it is that boring. And in Canada, it's critical. In fact, a lot of countries, it is critical that you keep complete records. So what does that mean? Yes, you actually have to keep your receipts. Now, there's a lot of misinformation that's out on the internet that says anything under $75 you don't have to keep a receipt for, especially if you use a credit card, because you can submit your credit card statements. That may or may not be true. I'm super conservative, believe it or not, but this is one place that I am, and I am a paper keeper. In fact, when I send my kids out to buy anything, I don't care what country we're in, if I give them money, they will come back with money and a receipt and a total. So it is critical that you, well, number one, start training your kids to do it, train your employees to do it if you have it, and you need to do it. So every time that you use a credit card, you use cash. Cash is actually the harder part of keeping complete records because you just throw a 20 around or a 50 around, and it's easy to not get a receipt and then know where that cash goes. Now, get a pen and paper because this gets a little more complicated on how you keep complete records, but it's critical. So using cash versus a credit card, right? Let's just think about that. There's you as an individual, and then there's your company. And as you continue to work with me, you're going to have more than one company because you're going to have a core operating company for the business that's making money. And then as you start investing, you're going to have other companies for asset protection, say even a piece of real estate. So minimum, you might have two. So let's just think about that. There's you, your one company, let's say company one, company two. And you should have your own personal credit card and probably have cash. Plus you have your company and credit card cash and company two credit card cash. So it's essential as you go out and spend. So let me give you a spending tip. And this is also for your family, and I'm going to talk more specifically about your family coming up. Anywhere you go, I actually prefer credit cards. So yes, on the internet, and you listen to Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey, and they're like, don't use credit cards, don't use credit cards. And it's like, you have to use credit cards. You have to use credit cards. It's the easier way for you and a bookkeeper and your accountant to keep records because every credit card will come on a statement online or in paper. I would encourage you, if you don't have a good online backup, to print it all and store it all. Yep, so you might have to get a big old storage container, but almost every country in the world, you've got to save 7 years of records in case you get audited. So highly encourage the credit card use, and think about it. Like you just walk into a store, I want you to start being very aware and not just dump this off to the bookkeeper and CPA like it's their job. A lot of this is you front facing on how you spend. I'm probably the only wealth builder that teaches very spending forecasting principles. So as you spend, you should carry all three cards. Say you go into an office supply store or a material store and you actually want to buy something for the real estate company, you want to buy something for your operating company, and you buy something personally, yes, you should check out 3 times. And I hear my clients say, you've got to be kidding. That is so ridiculous. And here's how odd it is, especially for you women. You'll say, what do the people behind me think in line? When do you care? Like, people are so worried about their own little life. They don't really care about you. They won't even notice that you're doing it 3 times. You do one, credit card, check out, get that receipt, another one, and another one. And some of you think this is really simple. It is simple, but most people forget it. Cash is tough because which cash is it? Was it your cash? Company number one's cash or company number two's cash? That's where cash gets tricky. So I would encourage you to have petty cash, like literally have cash, keep them in envelopes or however you want to keep them in different files, but you literally have to manage cash in a very different way. So again, probably stay with credit cards. You're going to be better off in keeping complete records, keep them filed. Again, you need 7 years. In case you're audited, you're going to need them somewhere. So just keep your records. So in case that Canadian Revenue Agency comes knocking on your door, you have complete records. By the way, you shouldn't be the one answering the door. Make sure you have a proper tax strategist or accountant that can handle that, and they front face all of that. Now let's go to point number 2. Why employ your family? Now, in all countries it's beneficial, but I can tell you in Canada, 2019, you'd have over $12,000, I think it's actually $12,069 of tax-free revenue as long as your family member's employed. So if you are a family and you have 4 kids, you're getting 48 plus you two, you're getting over $72,000. So family income in Canada is a huge deduction. Now, yes, they all have to have legal jobs. So you want to put together a little job description. And if you follow my kids program, you don't do, necessarily straight payroll. You have to do tasks associated to things. And that's another kids video. So click on that and go check that out. Not only how to pay your kids, but how to clearly design their tasks that are age appropriate as they grow. Other things, again, inside your family are the vehicles. We have families that have 6, we have families of 8. Should their car insurance be individual, or should you at that point get corporate fleet insurance, which would be a better deduction for you? So there's a lot of things to look at that we love to help you with. If you're enjoying this content, I have the most amazing Canadian, world-class tax strategist. So in the description, I have a link, and you're going to pop it up. It takes about 30 seconds to do this application. Be sure you write on there that you're Canadian, so we get you to the Canadian experts. This is so important. Now, Canada also has a thing called the GST, right? And a lot of other taxes across every province. So there's individual and there's federal. So you've really got to pay attention. Your tax strategist should be managing, especially your GST tax has to be paid per province. And if you're a business and you operate across, so you do some business in Toronto, you go back and you do business in Vancouver, you land back in Calgary, do more business, each of those provinces are going to need their tax. So again, this isn't something you learn to do. If you want to use the tax code properly in Canada, keep complete records, keep it organized, really pay your family, use them as a deduction. If you don't have a family, by the way, you should get one, I always say. And then the last, which is really living that corporate life. So let's dig in a little further into that individual versus corporate life. Well, first of all, if you're an individual, again, don't be that sole proprietor or sole proprietor hobbyist, the side hustle that everyone's talking about. That really needs to become a formal company. And in Canada, it is not that big a deal to go get a numbered company. It's a little bit different than it is in the United States, but you just get a numbered company. I've had several of them with my husband. Very simple and very quick to get, unlike the United States takes a little while. So let's talk though, before we jump into a little more distinctions, and I'm actually going to use the number one reason why you get queued up for an audit. Number one reason is the fact you don't keep your records uncommingled. Now, commingling records, which I talked about that earlier in our video, but let's just reinforce that. When there's you and a company, or potentially a second company, and let's just say your kids get 18 and they have their own companies, all of those corporate records need to be completely separate. I gave you some strategies earlier around credit cards and cash. And then when you actually get back home, let's talk about that lovely thing called a filing cabinet. And I actually have an adult filing cabinet, which I'll give you a free resource of how to organize a file cabinet. And I have one for your kids. So this is just a document that I'm going to give you. You're going to click on the link down in the descriptions. We'll talk totally at the end of the video about how to get my financial filing cabinets. There's one for adults, one for kids. And yes, it goes down to how do you go out and buy a 4-drawer. What do you put in drawer 1, drawer 2, drawer 3, drawer 4? Some people say, you've got to be kidding. This is simple. Yeah, I know. But most of you don't really know how to do it because who's trained you? It's not just ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. You've got to keep you and the company separate. That's number one. You got to keep your credit cards and your cash separate. But let's go a little further. You also have to keep your insurance documents, any or other contractual documents that you have. Those actually never get filed. Your contract should always stay in what I call a stock a drawer. You don't file those away for 7 years. A copy can go with those files if they go off property, but really you need to keep those contracts on property. So it's all in the documents. It's the documents of how to really put together a financial filing cabinet. So again, keeping your records critical. are essential. Being married to a Canadian, now we have American records, we have Canadian records, we have corporate records, we have trust records. So yes, paperwork. I actually have these t-shirts that I used to sell. It says, do paperwork or be poor. So by saying that, you actually don't have to do the paperwork. You can hire this to a bookkeeper, but I can promise you at the end of the day, if the CRA comes calling and knocking on your door, guess who's responsible? It's you, not your accountant. Actually, your accountant's a little bit responsible now with the new laws, but your bookkeeper's not. So my job is to teach you how to set the structure and then let them do the work. I'm not asking you to do all the paperwork and the work. I just want you to set the structure and help organize them. So if you click on the link, I have two things. I have one, the application. If you're serious about meeting with our team in Canada, I have a brilliant team. But just as importantly, and to get organized for that team, I want you to click on a free resource I'm going to give you. It's our financial filing cabinet. Again, if you want the adult and kid one, just go click, get both of them and go out and get that filing cabinet, get some filing, get those little paper filing drawers, little labels. Yep. You don't have to do the work. You have to set structure. I give it all to you. Just click on the links.